is 5:30 PM and I, Brad Limoges, will open this meeting of the Morrisville Water and Light Department. This evening, Bob Hinian is gonna take over for me and operate the meeting as I am not prepared. Thank you.
Okay, the meeting's open. Any agenda adjustments?
Yes, we have one. I'd like to add item 7.5, which is the Jersey Heights validation resolution. And since it's an action item, we would need to actually make a motion second and vote to add it to the action agenda.
I'll move that we add it to the action agenda.
Second. We need to vote on that. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, any public comments? There being none, we'll have a motion to approve the minutes from May 7th meeting.
I'll make motion to approve the minutes as written.
I will second it.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Check registry. I have a motion to approve the check register.
I will move to approve the check register as written.
I'll second.
Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, you guys have it. All right. The special project and Amy Wade authorization.
Yeah, so we've got, oh, go ahead.
So I have a motion to open that item.
Make a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion?
So I got you information in the packet about the 4 projects we have. In theory, we can afford to fund them all if you want to. And I've put up on the screen sort of the way you could make that work. I noted in the application that 4 are on public properties and 1 is not. You're allowed to fund things not on public property, so I also noted that for you. And I would say if you decide to approve for one, the awning project, since I wrote the memo, I thought you would want to consider 2 contingencies in approval. One, which is, the applicant is not the owner of the building, so we want authorization from the building owner, that they support the project and will allow it on their building. And 2, I don't know if there's a permit required from the town, since it will be hanging over the public sidewalk. I don't think it's a sign, because they're not planning to put any name on it, but I would just want them to get a letter from the town, either say they've issued a permit or that no permit is required. That's only if you decide you wanna fund that project.
Here's one other thing you're gonna add about that, just that it stays with that property, not.
The owner
with
would
the-
stay with the property, would be taken down with the business when it goes, like, if it was to go out. That's only if you decide you wanna go there, totally up to you, and I'm happy to answer any questions such as I can for you about these projects.
Okay, we don't have to go in the same order.
You can do whatever you want.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve the Centennial Library's request for 2517?
I'll move to do that.
That's like. All those, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we approve this library's request.
So just to be on the record, library, so that was out of special projects.
Yeah, special project.
Yeah, we need to make sure, because we ran into some issues last
As you
year.
remember, we had to amend the motion recently, so I'm trying to be more fastidious about it this time.
I mean, if I had read the whole article, it would have said
Perfectly fine.
request of the special projects fund. The next one I want to consider is, I have a question on, is Historical Society.
Yep.
New sidewalk.
Yeah.
The town, when the town took away the village highway department, they assumed the responsibility for building and maintaining sidewalks.
Yeah.
I don't think we should get into,
So it's
The
not
building side.
it's not for a new sidewalk in that way.
that's what it says.
I know,
There's a
but
sidewalk from the front steps to the street.
that's the sidewalk.
That's the
we're talking about,
sidewalk.
This one,
Okay,
not this one. So
What's that?
So we're talking about this one right here, down to the street, not in front of the street.
We're not running a new sidewalk parallel
It's
to
not this, it's an upgrade of that sidewalk, the
Okay,
entry
that's
sidewalk. Just,
All right.
that's, and you can see what it will look like out of the building.
Okay.
That's what they're talking about.
That wasn't in the packet, was it?
Yes, if you flick through, there's pictures of.
So it's perfectly fine, I'm just, the plan, hopping in to help.
Okay.
Well, we
I
say
didn't have
sidewalk,
my-
we say sidewalk.
I don't have my colors on my
I
printer.
know.
Not entrance way.
I guess I could have said entry walk or something like that, I picked a forward.
Okay,
It's fine, it's all right, I'm just trying to help.
so we have a motion to approve the Historical Society's request, any other discussion?
No, you said you had a motion?
No, not
You need a-
specifically,
okay. We need a motion to approve the Historical Society.
using what funds?
What's that?
And that's Amy Wade funds.
Yeah, so
Amy Wade
add that to
And I
the,
will second that.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Okay, Moss Home Goods, Jennifer Hubbard requests 6420 to add an awning to the building housing this business. The request is of the Amy Wade Fund.
And I moved it, if you decide to approve it, I moved it to special projects. To make, otherwise the Amy Wade fund was gonna be oversubscribed, so it's eligible for either potentially, if you decide you wanna fund it. But, just so, if you decide to do it, it's out of special project.
Okay, so do I have a motion for the Moss Home Goods?
I'll make a motion. Oh, sorry.
Okay, I think if we approve this, we're gonna open up a can of worms.
So,
And every landlord is gonna be telling his tenants, go get some money from the village to improve my building. And Demonis Property owns that building, and I think they want an awning, Demonis Property should put it up.
I agree.
So
I don't.
the
I think
motion is to approve it, so
we're just still in discussion though.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't agree. I agree. My view is anytime we can make the village or the center of town look more appealing, we should do it. They've asked for the money. If somebody else asks for the money, we have it, that's fine. They came to us, they asked before anybody else did, the money's there, we should approve it. I think it directly impacts the visual concept you get of the town. I think anytime we can help do that, I think that's what the Amy Way and the special project's for. If other people wanna do that, let them put in their bids. If we have money, I'm for it. Doesn't mean everybody's gonna be lined up for it. I don't see why they would. Doesn't mean we have to improve it. But I just think that this is a chance to improve the optics of the town. Because right now, it's kind of just windows, you know, and I think.
I don't disagree with you, Tom. My concern is the saying no to, if it gets to be too much, that's all. That's.
Well, then, if it gets to be too much, then, you know,
it's,
and if they say it's, well, we've done it before, well, if we've had the money, sure. But if we don't, this is something that I'm just saying my viewpoint, you know, because that building. It's a pane of glass and there's no depth to it, and I think that directly would impact the visual. That's my point, so.
okay, the motion is to approve it. All those in favor?
Oh, okay, that was still discussing.
Yeah, I thought maybe we could discuss it a little bit more.
Okay,
I mean, does anybody have any ideas of how we could control it or concerns about saying no later on?
I think, I agree with Tom, you know, we should have a clean up. Make the village more visually attractive, but not to renters whose landlord can afford to do it if they wanted to clean it up and make it look good.
could I offer one thing, like, if you wanted to do it, like, maybe you can say we would do it up to a certain dollar amount. Like, we would offer awnings or something,
Have a match.
either have a match, or say we will put something up, or yeah, have a match, like.
Or I don't know. Yeah, so. I
Are
guess
they doing that already? Weren't you gonna speak to the owners, they got approval and they were gonna.
What I said is that would be a contingent, that would be a condition if you decided to approve it, is that it would be conditional on getting authorization from the owner. And getting a permit from the town as necessary.
Right, but weren't they, I thought I read that they were already gonna meet, they were gonna contribute part of it.
Oh.
They were only asking for a portion of it.
I.
That's okay.
I could, maybe I'm mixing them up, but
Hey, let's look for it. You may have it right. I can pull up their request. Right there. Yeah, I have everything. They tried to be prepared.
It just says that they understand that it is more than Amy Wade funding, however, I'm hoping to work out the balance with Demar's properties, I don't really know what that
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
It doesn't really
means.
say how much, yeah.
Was there an invoice in here?
No, this is all there was. The other than the photo.
That's the other thing, it doesn't have the backup as to what.
Do it? Yeah. So,
What typically don't we would. Sorry, require,
we don't always have quotes in advance, at least ever since I've been here. And I would just say, you know, which I wrote a memo, but just to have it out there. You know, this awning thing is a thing, these days, and to Tom's point. We support the idea, but it's just who should pay for it. The old villages suffer from the issue of they don't look very vibrant. And so when the traveling public feels like, well, this is a place to drive through and not to stop. And so this notion of dropping awnings in on the storefronts is a way to basically signal, we're open, we're alive, we're thriving, we're a place to be, is kind of a thing in villages these days. And whether it's a fad or whether it will stick, I can't tell you, but it's not unusual in villages like Morrisville to see awnings go up. That said, I don't know who pays for them in other places, right? Couldn't tell you, but it is a thing. I just wanted to share you.
Maybe we should push it until and ask them the question, if they ask the landlord.
Yeah.
If they could do this, I don't want this to be, okay, if we approved it, and then they go back, and they've already asked Demar's property has said, no, we're not gonna do that, now they have this money, and they go back and say, oh, you know.
Yeah.
Well, it's still
We approved
contingent
it,
on.
and it's not even enough to do it.
Yeah, it's still contingent, they're gonna do it, I think, get the zoning, check zoning and see if Demar's properties when they do it. Maybe it's a thing, if we meet them halfway, hey, if they wanna pitch in half of the cost, and we can do that, then wait further down the road for another. Storefront wants to do that, we can say, yeah, this is what we've done, we'll try to help you. Something like that.
Or you could do a penny set and just create a cap that you put in, you could say, you know, for awnings, we're willing to put in up no more than $2,500, and you pick whatever number you want, I'm just giving you an example. And so we're not willing to put, you know, we're willing to help, but we're not gonna pay the full freight. You know, there's lots of ways you can do this if you're inclined.
Well, again, I think if you set a precedent, I could ask for awning in my house.
I hear you.
I'm right on the main road into the
Yeah.
village.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to, but I could.
Yeah, no, I get the concern, you know, this could stretch, you know, that whole street and around the corner on Main Street, and you got, what, 12 or 15 storefronts right there, forget.
And you know, the biggest eyesore is the Norm's furniture. Things been falling down for 20 years. I mean, nothing you do is gonna dress up that street till that place is gone.
We put an awning on it.
No, we don't. Just a lipstick on the pig.
I tell you,
They could come back with a grenade.
Put some lipstick on the pig, huh?
Tom, I see your point. I just know that from some pretty sad experiences when I was in business. That's the kind of thing that you do it once, and I'll guarantee you, people are gonna come out of the window. And they're gonna say, well, you did it for them, I demand.
Which is fine, but if we have the funding to do it, and if they put it together,
64.
I don't wanna discourage people from trying to make their storefronts look
I
better.
agree.
Maybe we need to come up with a cap, maybe we have, maybe we need to designate businesses only.
Right,
You know.
maybe make it.
For clarity's sake, their application does have the full number in it, it's 6420, so we've asked for 4,000 out of 6420.
That's the
Ask
balance.
for the full 64.
Oh, to
You're taking, you're taking the whole.
How much did they ask for?
They asked
You
for
took the whole thing out.
So that's
64,
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, yeah, so. They did ask for 100%, just, I wanted to.
They asked for, it says. I understand that this is more than Amy Wade, however, I'm hoping that the balance is with Demar's property. What's the balance?
Well, I don't know what she means by it's more than the Amy
Maybe she
Wade
thought
thing.
there was a cap in the Amy funding or something, I don't know, to your point.
Wow.
You know, but there's sufficient funds, that's not the issue.
And then, I remember last year, and I brought this up, when people are asking for money, if they want, I think it's best to show up, because if they're here, they can clear these things out.
Mhm.
Now we're pushing it back another 2 weeks, you know, to me, if I'm asking for money, I wanna show up so I can answer any questions that come up and make this a smooth process.
And
I'm
to be fair to
not
them,
saying anything to them,
to be fair to them, I did not send a request out and let people even know it was on the agenda, so that's not their fault.
Yeah.
That's my fault.
Okay, well,
Can I get a motion to table this so we get some more information?
I think it's a good idea. I'll make a motion to table it until we get further information on permitting, what the landlord says, and the actual amount of money is assessed.
Okay, I'll second it.
Should get a copy of it.
All those in favor of tabling this item? Aye.
Perfect, thank you.
Are we gonna consider, guys, putting a cap on what we will?
Yeah, it might be, a nice thing to have an incentive kind of.
Well, I think they should have some skin in the game.
Kind of, yeah, I mean, and we should make some estimate somehow on how much money we're talking about. Like the overall project would be, okay, we had, you know, Main Street businesses or whatever we call the main streets and approximately, okay, we're gonna
Portland Street.
give 2,000, what's that?
That's Portland Street.
Well, but no, but Portland and whatever, what other streets we wanna consider, but.
The Amy Way Fund has dollar limits on plants and trees, doesn't it?
Does on plants and
That's-
trees, but not on things like this,
Okay.
only on,
Maybe we should think about anything on private property is gonna have a cap of like $1,000.
Penny and I were actually talking earlier this week.
But again, we'll wait for more information on it.
Criteria on both of these, they're really vacuous.
Okay, that being done,
So just one other question, because it might be helpful, I mean, if you have it, even if you have a sense, if you're thinking like 2,000 or 3,000, and the other question I could ask is, can you make the project work at X? Right, but you may not have a sense of that yet, and that's perfectly fine, I'm just, you kind of mentioned something, Carl, so I thought, before we move off it, if you have a sense of where you might be willing to land in terms of a share or a cap. One question I could ask is, could you make the project work at X dollars, right?
From what I heard, they all have different views
Yeah,
on
I think
the
that's
dollar
probably
amount
what
too,
it's-
but we
so.
don't know they're gonna get anything. We vote now.
Perfect, alright, so let's leave that, let's leave that on the table.
It would simplify things if we said, well, it's, the owner has to be making a request, or at least a joint request, you know, that.
You can't get cable, if you're a tenant, you can't get cable installed in your house unless the landlord
Okay,
applies.
I know what I gotta do with it,
Yeah.
perfect, thank you.
Clear?
The next item, I guess, they're kind of combined.
Yep.
And request for new snowflake lights, another request for garlands for the snowflake lights. I just wanna make sure I'm clear on something. If I remember correctly, when they started this, I mean, the downtown merchants, Arthur's and all those people paid for those lights. And then Mac took it over.
That I can't
Well, that's
tell
the
you.
way I remember it.
I will tell you, I threw away a bunch of things. Per Mac, that there was banners that had all of the business names on them.
Yeah.
That I was told that they bought, I don't know, cause I'm new,
No, they had,
but I got rid of them, they were long banners, they all had, News and Citizen even, I mean, one of them had there in, the bakery. So those were all deteriorated, so we threw those away, but I believe from what I was told, these were made by some individual and they're kind of homemade made. They got white lights that are all white electrical tape all onto these units.
anyways. Again, I mean, I said this last year when we funded that streetlight downtown for like $6,000, that I don't think the village should get involved in maintaining and doing things that the town is responsible for. And this is another one of those. You open the can of worms and every time they want something for the town, they're gonna come running here looking because the town doesn't want to spend any money. And I also remember in the last few years, there was letters to the editors of the News and Citizen and letters to Front Page Forum from people that worked at the hospital saying when they drove through downtown Morrisville, they felt unwelcome because of the holiday lights.
I think that's why they're doing the candles, that's why they stuck one type.
Those snowflakes.
So snowflake.
One thing I will just
Not
say,
as religious.
Bob, to be fair. We discussed putting in a bid from Morrisville Water and Light as employees, or, so,
Same.
but but it came from the town. Gail said she would take it and do it, so, I mean, we feel because these lights are in the village, it is for village purposes, not the town, the request is coming from Gail, because Gail did the bulk of the work.
And you can understand, we put those up and they're all junk. And this coming winter time, I'm probably not gonna put them up.
The old ones.
The old ones, because the old ones, they're not working. And I don't feel it's up to Morrisville Water and Light to maintain them, but we put them up every winter. The last 2 winters since I've been here, we put only the snowflakes up. Because some of the other ones were under the understanding that they were too religious based. So we started putting up just the snowflakes. It's a winter theme, winter holiday theme to be more neutral. And as Penny said is, whoever it is, Mac, I'm not familiar with them, but Gail did approach me and said, what can we do to replace these? And I did mention to her that these funds are available. I said either Penny and I would like to, move forward with this and request it to get these snowflakes replaced so we can have new ones that are lighter and more easier for us linemen to put them up. Or Gail said, well, why don't I run with it and let me apply for it? So in some senses, I apologize for it. I'm the one that pushed it. So
Okay,
because I deal with them every winter time.
Mac has done a lot around the village. They got all those new streetlights that cost $6,000 a piece. A number of years ago, they raised the money for it.
Yep.
And it had to be, I don't know how much they were then, it had to be hundreds of thousands of dollars. Because how many of those lights have we got?
You're talking the decorative single, there's quite a few.
I don't know why I feel like they were in the 40,000 range, but I don't know why I feel that way, if energy efficiency was involved, but maybe I'm thinking of some.
Share is probably less because efficiency will not probably.
But I could be thinking of some different project, that's what I recall seeing.
But I remember the last year, it was like $5,600
It
to
was,
replace that one on the bridge.
because there's no incentive from efficiency Vermont anymore.
Yeah.
No, well,
That's gone.
It's no breeze.
And if you don't know the whole story of that, like, that was vandalism, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Well,
they were,
So
Now,
somebody kicked that off the bridge and sent it into the Lamoille River. So-
they were told that last year.
Oh, I wasn't sure, just asked you.
I don't think it made a motion, but I'd like to, unless I'm wrong, I'm gonna make a motion.
Which one do you want to do first, the town? There's 2 separate applications.
So they have to be separate? I guess you're splitting, I think we have to split them up.
They came in separately, so the lighted garland is not likely to get approved if the holiday lights don't, so I would do the town's holiday lights first.
well, I would approve the garland and let the town approve the holiday. So that's me.
However you want to approach it, which one do you want first, Bob?
I'll let Carl make the,
Alright, I'll make a motion to approve the holiday lights for the. Why, I don't know why it says Morristown, but it's the village of Morrisville is what.
Well, the town is the town of Morristown is the applicant.
Yeah,
That's why, and it's Amy Wade.
I'll second Amy Wade from the Amy Wade fund.
And if it goes down, then Rusty and I can just kind of take this letter and put it in front of us.
okay, any discussion? Any more discussion?
I'm in
I'm
favor, I'm in favor of that.
Once again, it's a visual thing, and it's gonna be a one-shot deal. They're not asking us every year, this is gonna be something that's gonna be carried on for hopefully years, as long as they can hold up. But I think it's something, it's an investment into the town and the village, so I'll be for it.
I'm forward to.
Okay, all those in favor? The ayes have it.
Now do we do the garland, or was that the garland?
That's the next,
Okay,
that's the next one.
I'll make a motion for garland. Out of the Amy Wade, the 20 and 27 out of the special.
But maybe, do we need to do the special if we're not approving the?
Yes,
awning right now?
The awning was also out of the special, so
Oh,
what you've already
yeah.
approved out of Amy Wade is 100% of the Amy Wade, so there's $27 short. So yes, so the motion's correct.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I just want a clarifying question, is that something that the line people will be putting up as well, or is it?
No, they put that up themselves, that garland and lights, we actually installed outlets at the bottom of those post
Yeah,
lights.
right.
And the garland lights are for those, and they install them themselves.
Right.
The only thing we do for them is the American flags and those snowflakes. And to save time and money, I plan on leaving the snowflakes up all winter. And take them down and then put the flags up. And then when I take the flags down, I'll put the snowflakes back. So that way I'm not running into
Efficient.
poles a couple different times.
Unless somebody comes out and they want something different in the middle of that. Some spring that everybody or something. All right, well. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, I have it.
Great, thank you all very much.
Okay, the bank resolution. I guess we have to read this whole thing.
No, you can just refer to it. Is that okay with you, Penny?
Yeah, this is pretty much standard that we've had every year, now that we have
New chair.
a new
and
chair. Well, we have a new chair, but given the fact that Brad is, here part-time. We basically put Carl in as the second check signer as for the board of trustees, and then the rest stays the same as Scott, myself and Sarah. And again, feel free to read it, but it has not changed at all.
I'm looking at the validation resolution.
Oh, good.
Oh, no, the bank,
Well, that's another one. This first one's a bank resolution.
page 39 and 49.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
You got them up there, you need that, that way he knows
I
right.
got it, I got it.
Okay.
I'm gonna do it. Bring this up.
You need another motion.
Yeah, so can I have a motion to approve the banking resolution?
I'll make a motion to approve the banking resolution.
I'll say. And if you could, if you could, just, if it's friendly to the maker and the seconder, specifically authorize the chair to sign the resolution. Is that part of your motion?
Today's chair or permanent chair?
The permanent chair.
Perfect, very. No, we got it right here.
Okay.
Is that okay for the move and seconder, is that friendly? To add that language?
It's friendly.
Okay, all those in
Right
favor?
behind you.
Right behind your computer.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
the ayes have it.
So now the validation runs off.
Copy it.
I do, try to. Sure.
That the
one I
that's additional.
Okay, item 7.5. Here we go. The validation resolution.
Go go.
Do what first? Do you want me to read the whole thing or just?
No, I think.
Can I get a motion to approve the validation resolution?
I'll move to approve the validation resolution.
Second.
So
Any
what happened,
discussion?
what happened here is, well, we thought everything was in order. I think what ended up happening, what our attorney caught, it really was a timing issue with the day that the news and citizen gets issued. The second notice for the hearings was like a day or two late under the law. And Eli said, if you adopt this, then all's copacetic. I think it was a close vote, it was 80-1, so you're like, there's no issue if you adopt this resolution. It basically corrects the technicality that because the news and citizens is a once a week paper. That, and not their fault, we should have probably put it into a week before, but we didn't notice that. And so that's what happened here, it's just a technicality. So Eli said, you're just safer if you get them to adopt this, Sarah can sign it, life is good.
Yeah, so to be clear, it was the warning was in 3 weeks worth, but the April 10th was
A day or
a
two.
day late. Cause it had to be 5 days prior to that April 14th.
Yeah.
Meeting. And vote.
So if you adopt this, that will resolve that technical issue.
Okay, we have a resolution, we had a second, all those in favor? Guys, have it.
Was that 7? Yes, if you want to. Thank you.
Moving on to reporting information items, other business.
Financial, you want to go through the financial spending? And you should have got, hopefully you all got the sewer one yesterday, so that's what he, Ben's been busy with the audit stuff.
Well, that and I don't know if I put it in the email, cause I started to, and then I think I got rid of it, we added. Some new accounts, which means I have to reprogram the financials and so it can get done in time. Okay, so. Electric, water and sewer. Page 41 and 49 is the electric, because the balance sheet. And then the income statement and. Year to date through March for the. Electric department, we are sitting at 176,000 net income. Versus a budget of 4,000, I think a lot of that is just timing. With some of the revenues that have come in, our revenues. We had a really good winter, and part of that could be how I allocated the year. We also, the budget only had 14% of a rate increase, and we were actually implemented 16%, so there's a little bit there. But the winter sales were through the roof. So that may even out as we, the seasonality, cause I don't recall exactly, I use like percentages based on historical as to what hits in the first quarter for budget revenues. And then, just in general, when I have to refund some of the money, potentially with the rate increase, cause again, we're billing 16. It's in the neighborhood of 14 of what they're allowing us, but it's still gonna be a little bit more than what we budgeted, so. I also, in going through, purchase power, again, because power costs and sales were high, we're over budget on purchase power. But I also had a little bit of an issue that I think is, I think where it is, it's in hydro, I believe, that I think the budget, how I have the budget in labor cost is in one department versus the other, for hydro versus administration, so I need to take another look at that to see what that is, but overall, so far we're doing okay. I'm still working slowly through accounts payable, mostly with the VEPSA bills, but I'm paying them timely so that we can try to avoid any penalty from them, but we are behind on those. But not more than I think 60 days, so. Any questions as you looked at the electric department?
I'm assuming these are timing things maybe that you're talking about, Penny, like. Due from other funds, last year was 38,000, this one's 192,000, is that just because of?
More than likely, it's, so what ends up happening is I'm paying bills. If the water department or sewer department owes money, like. I have to do a payment from those departments into electric, but what happens sometimes is. Like some of these, that balance right there could be, at the end of April, I'm sorry, in April, we record expenses that are actually related to March. So at March, it would have been due from. But I didn't know it at that time because I didn't book those invoices until April into March, or it's mostly purchase power, or no, it wouldn't be purchase power, it would be, it could be anything like, the sewer pipelining, if that's sewer, we might be able to suss it out if we look at the water but it is timing.
I
To
mean,
that point.
that's the only thing I can look
Yeah.
at, we're looking at all these numbers,
Because-
oh, there's a big change.
Yeah,
There's
as of like, as of today and all the invoices that were keyed in through today, like I transferred 50,000 out of the sewer department into the electric, cause again, everything's paid out of the electric department. But if it's a water invoice or a sewer invoice, it puts a due from, and then those two departments have to pay.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm thinking I didn't actually include the balance sheet for the water department. Don't know why, I just have the, income statement, but that just shows where we are at today. Again, we budgeted a loss, of 27,000, and we had a loss of 23,000 through March. Now, remember that starting in April, we have the 5% rate increase, plus we also are gonna see some increases due to having that threshold be from 10,000 gallons down to 7,500. And we added the 3/4 inch customer charge, so that's gonna, when the budget was prepared, we didn't. That's not even on the radar, like, I gotta try to do some calculations to figure out how to put a budget there. So I think that, kind of plays into a little bit of, where we are. Cause revenues right now, are actually in line, some of the
Pretty
expense.
extraordinary repair, like that 500 net,
Right.
the Vija was like over 10 grand itself just for the parts. So,
Yeah.
that certainly wasn't budgeted, but,
No, I wish I could foresee some of that stuff.
so,
Yeah.
not to say that talks it all the way, Penny, but that certainly was not.
Yeah, overall in that systems expense, though, we're only over budget 6,800.
I get it.
So that's not bad, cause that was a $17,000 expense, or we're over budget on that line. Like 17,000 for the hydrant expense, so.
Yep.
Again, if, I don't know if you. I apologize, I don't have the balance sheet in here, but if you have any questions on the income statement. For the water, and then sewer, that's the one I said.
Are you concerned with any of these members personally?
Yeah, no, like. I mentioned on the electric department, I think that's gonna even out somewhat. Water overall, the budget. Like if you look on the water, the far left column, we budgeted a net income of 64,000. Although it looks like we also had some grant income on that, so that it looks like we still did end up budgeting a little bit of a loss, but we're still fighting with FEMA stuff and going through some of those expenses coming in.
The real issue in all the budgets is just mostly electric, but a little bit water and not sewer is cash. It's
Correct.
just available cash for cash flow to run the business, that's all.
Right.
That's the real issue now.
Yeah.
Tell me if you think I'm.
No, that's true, I mean, because-
The state doesn't want that.
Right.
Yeah, but
So she's constantly, you should see the estimation she does in money around the current people, so.
Okay.
but like with the water, and he's right, the water department right now does have some cash to pay the bills, there's nothing there. And if you think about, a net loss or whatever, with depreciation expense, like on the water department, we budgeted a depreciation expense of almost 200,000. That's just a number, like we really, there's no cash involved with depreciation expense, right? The cash comes in when you buy the asset and then you have to depreciate it over 5, 10, 30 years. So when, in fact, I don't think any of you are here, but when we were doing the sewer department, we had like a lot of net losses and we had to raise our rates like 150,000. We were really banking on the depreciation, like we knew we had a net loss, but depreciation was in those numbers, so, again, when we did the budget, we had cash flow and we have cash flow today. I mean, the one I'm worried the most about with cash flow is electric, but it's slowly, I'm managing again.
And cash flow is the worst on electric, just to say it out loud, in the first quarter. Because the power supply bills in like January and February are massive, and so our bills to VEPSA are sometimes coming in around kind of 250, 300,000. And they.
450,000 with the.
And even we're selling it all, we're not getting that money for another 30 days, right?
Yeah.
And so that, since we're not allowed to have an operating bucket. So all of a sudden, when you're behind 450,000 of money coming in for a month lagging. And that sends her into a scramble, then the rest of the year, between hydro and just less use. you know, the power supply bill gets smaller, but we're still collecting, so she catches up, right? That's what that's what we're always hoping every summer, right? But that's kind of the way the electric one runs, so the Q1 is always gonna be the toughest from the cash flow, at least it should be theoretically. Tell me, I'm talking to your world, so tell me I'm wrong.
I didn't live in last year, but it did turn itself around, except we have Trustee's high bills of tree trimming, so. On the wastewater, I mean, net income wise, they do actually have positive net income and they're relatively close to budget. But again, the revenues, as far as how I allocate them month by month or quarter by quarter, the budget itself, it's really a wag. We are, I don't know what page number on this one, over budget through the first quarter, 7,000. Again, I mean, other than the fact that I budgeted the 4-inch meter customer charge, I'm off $1, and that's a known, like, we have 3 customers, so that one's always gonna be dead on, but, anyhow. But again, the sewer department will see a little bump because of the 3/4 inch rate that we implemented in April, and then, just the change in a higher, usage rate after 7,500.
What percentage of the customers have 3/4 inch?
What percent? There was like 41 customers. It's not a lot, right? 40?
Close to 40, yeah.
Yeah,
40 out of like 1,000, about 1,000.
something like that, 800, 900 to 1,000.
Less than 0.5%,
Yeah, not a lot.
all less than 0.5%. Ish, 4/10 to be precise.
And then, the one thing I wanna try to get to is a point of where I'm actually reviewing total payroll budgeted versus total payroll paid, because right now, like, I could be dead on with payroll budgeted, but keep in mind, we've got 3 departments. We charge, you know, electric, water, sewer, hydro, we charge within each department, some of it goes to expense, some of it goes to capital jobs, so, and then what goes to expense might go to multiple departments within that, like, you know, on the sewer as an example, you've got the collection system, the pump station system, all these various different departments within, and so I'm trying to allocate it by department, then within their capital versus expense, and then within expense, it goes to the various groupings, so. There's a lot of variables in looking at one individual. Or multiple, like each line item, you might see a large variance, but overall could be spot on, or it could be.
It's a best guesstimate.
Yeah, it is, it really is, so,
Yeah.
but.
Any questions for Penny?
I mean, I just wanna add, like, the reserve allocation fees. I had historically budgeted 75,000, I bumped it up to 100, again, that we never know, like. Eventually, we might get to a point where there's not as much growth and we're not gonna have that coming in. Yeah, unless there's questions.
Good. Manager report?
You want me to?
Yes.
Oh.
No problem.
Move on to the manager.
Or Kevin, do you remember where you're at? No, when it's his turn.
Oh, okay.
Me?
Yeah,
Alright,
please do.
any questions on anything I had picked up from the last couple weeks?
The backup generator, I saw,
It's in place.
where it is now, like by the driveway, or is
Yeah.
it going in the building?
Yeah, it's up there, and the boys went to move it the other day and found that it was full of coolant. It leaked out somewhere, so. We got a hold of Cat, they said, put it in place, get it wired up, and we'll have our tech come out and take a look at it, so
Is it in the building, or is it where it's on the ground?
it's on the ground.
That's the concrete pad. That's where it's gonna be, because out of the floodplain.
That is.
The new location that they're putting it was out of the floodplain.
How far out? Cause I mean, just looking at it, doesn't look like,
300 feet,
really.
the 500-year.
We're gonna raise it up another 1.5
We could, I mean,
I mean, you're gonna make it, I mean, why not?
The water in 2023 didn't get close to that location.
Yeah, but,
How big is the pad?
yeah, is what,
Square feet.
by,
probably 12 by 5. Or by 6 or more.
So I wouldn't think it'd cost that much to, you know,
I'm not an engineer, I just, when I'm looking at it, you know, I'm sure it is, and I know it is, and it just. Like, wow, I mean, if we're gonna move it, let's get the sucker up. You know, I don't know, I hear it, I thought it was there, it was just placed there.
No, so
I think
it's,
that's the
I mean,
perfect spot.
it's hard to work on and maintain them is another question. It's outside the plane.
If you're, okay, if you're good with it, then don't. I just, it's special.
So anyway, so they got a brand new generator with an issue. The last one we got, they got it fired up and there was a leak in the fuel tank. And we were waiting for a new tank to come in from Brazil and then the flood happened. So I can't wait to see what happens this July.
What's it cost?
60, low 60s, 200 KW, yeah,
how many KW?
200.
200?
That we'll hopefully never have to use, but.
Have to exercise it.
Yes. Ron's
You
got-
can't backfeed the bridge from
We're
there.
not
can you?
currently set up that way to do it. It's something we could look at in the future. We get a demand response program. We'll be talking about that with both of our generators.
You can backfeed the one of the sewage treatment plant, can't you?
I don't think so today. It's not set up. And what we tend to do during a peak event is we take the sewage treatment plant off the grid. It runs on, the treatment plant runs on the generator, so we don't backfeed, but we drop the load. And that's probably what we would do, although, you know, we're not usually pumping water. During the peak time, so it might be something in the future that we'll look at to have that be able to backfeed onto the grid, but it's not currently configured to do it. So it would require more wiring, would probably require an Act 248 application, so I don't know that we'll do it or not, but we could certainly look at it.
I don't like the words backseat.
What's that?
I said I don't like the words
With
backseat.
all the appropriate, so it won't be backfeeding, it will be feeding into the grid like any other generator. With all the appropriate controls, but it's not set up that way today, to be clear. Anything else for you?
What do you mean here, Kevin, with the wells, 2, 3, 4, question mark, and erosion mitigation?
That's the
Ongoing.
FEMA stuff.
Okay, so where we are with that right now is the state has, as of yesterday, accepted our application is complete for state mitigation funding, but we're gonna get money, but they've said we've given them everything they need. And that, we applied for funding for the aquifer protection, so the riprap and stuff along the bank, and also for the flood wall around well 3. FEMA at the last meeting for federal funding. At least said out loud that their new version of their benefit cost analysis, which has to be done on when you're eligible, was like 3 point something or 2 point something, but it was above 1.0. Doesn't matter how much above 1.0 you are, you just gotta be above 1.0. The meeting before that, they said we were like minus 1,032. And they went, this time we were like above 1, so it was a pretty big shift. So long as that holds, we'll be eligible for federal mitigation money. Both of them have said they don't wanna talk to us about a new well. So the so-called well 4 there, we gotta start getting creative about it. So that's the update, Carl. Is that about accurate from what you know?
Yeah, more tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll do them every Thursday.
So basically, we can't go on our own on that, on the well 4.
We can, but it's a $2 million project that then our ratepayers pay for, so.
Yeah.
Our view has been we need to find money from somewhere, and there's some period of time, so long as. At least my view is, the most important thing is to get that aquifer protected. Which is why, we're in permitting right now, VHB's getting permits for us as we speak, to get that going. And then the second is get that flood wall around wall 3. Even in the worst case scenario, we will, until we have a backup well, we just have every single spare part in that thing sitting up here in a mezzanine, right? So in 5 days, we can rebuild that whole thing. If somehow we got water in there, if it gets washed away, we can't. But so long as the casing's still there in the ground, we can pretty much get that thing running pretty quick. We have all the parts, so You know,
Is there any plan to, build a berm around the wells to stop?
so basically, that's what we're doing around all three, it would be, but it'd be like a concrete flood wall all the way around.
Okay, good.
Like, you know, probably, I'm guessing a couple feet thick to stand up to the water and floating trees and, you know, it hasn't been designed yet, but I would imagine it's a fairly thick concrete wall.
Mm-hmm.
How deep would it have to be in order to not get undercut?
So we have a massive foundation and then it would, you know, it'll be, the height of the flood wall will be, I think they said it needs to be like 3 feet above the 500-year flood, so it'll be much taller than the current facility.
Well, it'll probably follow the building, but.
Probably not taller than the top of the building, but maybe up to the top of the building.
Right.
You know, it'll be ugly as hell, let me put it that way. You won't like looking at it, maybe we'll have to add $500 and pay someone to do a mural on it or
So we
something.
could put an awning, maybe an awning.
Too soon, too soon. Anyway, yeah,
The wetland boundary, is that what we're talking, the Wolf?
that was for the aquifer protection.
What does that mean? I mean,
So as part of applying for the permits, VHB had to go out and do delineation of where the wetlands are on
oh, it's
that.
good to mark.
Yeah, and then they had to meet with the state to walk through it, and make sure the state agreed where it was and agreed that what we proposed to do for work is not in the wetland.
Okay.
And I've not heard back from VHB yet, I don't know if you have, but they were anticipating the state would agree with the way they marked the wetlands, and if they did, we would then not need a wetland permit, which is just about impossible to get in Vermont. So that, then we wouldn't need it, and that would clear the path to be able to do that project. So I've not heard how that meeting went, I don't think you have either, right? That's what that is, so. Ready to go to electric?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Real quick there, we just picked up Hyde Park for 3 days or so. They did some work, so we actually carried them on our system for a short period of time. Just an update for you guys, the whole project for my Lower Elmore Mountain Road is now a success. All my easements are in from the individuals involved, and that is starting July 1st, the first and second week of July.
And Rusty, just as a point of reference, because they probably don't remember,
Okay,
this is a cross-country run.
You're putting this out on the street.
it's gonna be taking about 16 poles out of the wood, and we're making a primary underground down Lower Elm Mountain Road. If you guys are familiar with Mr. Cross's.
Yes.
From his place up to almost the end of that road is now gonna be primary underground to pick up just those 2 customers.
That cross-country goes out every time the wind blows.
Yep.
Like,
And I have 4
up
I have 4 poles up there that are gonna get, that we can't even climb in the woods, so. We've been holding our breath, that it's not those poles that we have issues with, cause we can't repair it, cause we can't even get on it, so. We're hoping that all this will take place, it's all
Good reliability.
scheduled. Yep, very good reliability, project we've been wanting to do, and that will be our very last bit of 2400 system on Morrisville, will be gone once we go with the primary underground. Other than that, just the typical Disco Rico's, business is actually picking up quite strong right now. We're getting a lot of applications in, a lot of work being done. If there's no other questions on my part from there, I do got one thing I wanna mention after, just wanna make sure you guys don't have any questions. I got a new item on there that I wanna just let you guys know about.
I have a question, it just is. Doesn't relate to anything probably important, but. When we carry to Hyde Park, do they pay us a fee like
They do.
a transmission fee or a
Yeah,
carrying fee?
Right now, if you go down to kind of where they pay us for their usage.
We monitor how much goes into Hyde
We
Park.
monitor, but
Okay, we do it as
there's
a
no
service.
wheeling or anything that happens, they don't pay us.
Mutual way.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry, I missed.
No, that's.
Cause I know I was primary metered and she needed to know when they were on and when they were off. Okay,
She
Alright, but
only
that-
uses that for reporting to the ISO or Belcourt for the
my
ISO.
bad.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
I thought they paid us for it
So how long are we supplying them with power?
for 3 days.
3 days?
mean, they pay for the power they use wherever it
Yeah,
comes from.
you're just using our line, right?
It's just we're not charging a wheeling fee to them.
Well, that's not what I meant, but we charge them for the power they use though, correct?
Well, we don't.
We don't charge them.
It's not coming from us.
No, but in a sense, when we carry them.
Right.
It's being paid for.
Not by us, because that, their meter's picking up that they're the ones that are
I
using.
think that's the reporting that Kim does, so it might show up
So we're
as
saying the
our,
same thing.
as our power, but she takes it out and then she puts it.
So it's not costing our ratepayers anything,
No.
Correct.
okay?
No, that's what I just. I didn't-
Technically, we could probably charge them what's called a wheeling fee, which is a charge to move their power along our wires. When they're coming from us instead of from GMP, wherever they normally come from. And that's what we don't do, that's the mutual.
That's what I was wondering, was
Is
if
that
we charge them.
This ain't transmission either, just so you guys know, this is actually distribution.
Distribution, right, here, so, yeah,
But it's power we don't get charged for,
we don't pay for.
because it
their
goes through
power.
our system and they know
There's
how
a
much.
meter, there's a meter there, that's why Kim reads that meter, still reads the meter, so she knows how much they used, and they'll. So that all gets netted out and taken care of, so they pay for whatever they're using.
But I am going to just follow up with Kim and what she does exactly, so.
But I believe that's accurate, that's what happens.
Cause wasn't that an issue with Harvard, with the wheeling fee?
Well, the wheeling, GMP was paying that, charging them wheeling fee off the sub-transmission,
Right.
because they owned a certain piece. And that's why they wanted to buy into our system, but then when I was helping out up there, they had bought the transmission line from GMP and never, and so I just called GMP and said, stop it. And they said, okay. But then they didn't wanna be a co-owner. Like, they saved them $230,000 a year in wheeling fees to GMP.
So how many years did that go on?
They bought that, how long ago did they buy that section of Woolpit?
Which one?
The one from
The Woolpit
dam to the main substation at the shop
That was just probably,
3 years ago.
yeah, probably between 3 and 4 years ago.
So it's 200,000 a year, 4 years, that they had that.
Oh, yeah. And that's why Mike was getting so mad about the fact that we were dragging our feet to let him become an owner, which we had our own reasons for. But he didn't realize that he actually owned the line and shouldn't be paying wheeling fees anyway. GMP was kind of embarrassed, they were like, yeah, I guess we did charge him.
So we're not getting anything back.
I asked, if you're gonna give him a refund, they're like, no.
Any
Anyway,
other questions?
Right.
So I just wanted to bring it up, we kinda, me myself, I guess, and I know some of these guys feel the same way, but kinda had a proud moment of our alignment. You guys may remember us mentioning Nick LeBlanc, he's our foreman here at Morrisville Water and Light. The barn fire you guys might have heard about in Woken, well, that was due to a vehicle driving into that barn and catching that barn on fire. You may have, if you read the Harvard Gazette, you may read about a guy named Nick. Well, that's ours. He was coming back from Choco at 1 o'clock in the morning for here and came upon that and he ended up going in and saving the man's life. So you'll see it around in the papers.
drag him out of the car.
Really?
While it was all on fire.
Boy, what a shame. The car was on fire, the barn was on fire, he smashed the back window out and he went in and got him. Really? So, yeah.
Pretty big.
So just wanted that, it was a pretty big deal. We actually kind
Yeah.
of looking around to see if we can find, ways to recognize him for his heroic effort. I mean, not everybody's gonna jump into a burning vehicle and pull a man out of a car, with the barn on fire as well, so.
Yeah.
Just wanted to share it with
It needs some
you.
recognition, like-
We were kind of proud of him and whatnot, so.
That certainly does deserve some recognition.
Yeah, we understand the nuisance citizen has the story too, so I'm hoping that they'll write a little more. That they'll actually put his last name in with it.
Yeah, they will, because the sheriff's department gave him his phone number, so they actually contacted him and said, I want to hear from you, so. But,
And you said the IBEW is what, is looking to do something, right?
yeah, the union actually has a magazine, IBEW magazine, so, our president is going to be stopping by soon here and doing an interview, because they want to recognize him in the IBEW magazine for what he did. So,
Yeah.
Good for him.
I mean, that's. Even the governor, I would think, I mean,
Yeah.
it's huge, cause then when that state see.
When it say the kid.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, that's something like, that's up that level, that's, you know, a burning building and a burning
Is
car.
that like a proclamation you send off,
Yeah,
like to the government?
We're not sure what to do in a sense, you know, on where to go and stuff like that, but we really would like to.
Yeah, we're gonna do something.
We gotta do something, just trying to find the right place.
Yeah.
To,
Awesome.
and the right leads to go the right place.
Well, it's a long way off, dedicating the report to it next year would be a good idea to do.
That.
Mhm.
Yeah, be everything.
But I mean, it'll be 10 months from now.
Still, be a nice thing to, well, that puts it in the most important annual record of this place that exists. Those reports are kind of the living history of this place. You know, that. It's fascinating to go back and look at the one.
How's he doing? Is he doing all right?
He's doing pretty good. He's doing pretty good. It was an emotional for him. About a year before we both came here, we actually had a car pull accident in Hardwick. And it was due to the car hit it and caught on fire and nobody could do anything until we got there, but unfortunately that lady did not make it. And we were there in the whole process, so that kind of sparked those memories up at the same time, and he's like, you know, he's no small fry. So looking at the back end of that little hatchback of that sports car, I was pretty impressed that he got himself into that situation, got in there to reach in and try to grab that gentleman's arms to get him, because his legs were crushed and he was stuck in there, so he's no weakling, he just said, I'm sorry, but it's gonna hurt really hard, but I'm not gonna let you die, and just yanked him out of the car.
So really,
Jeez.
But just want to share a proud moment I
Yeah.
felt.
Thank you. No.
yeah, that's good to know.
Well,
You guys wanna add anything? So,
no, I think you did a good job. Everybody here is proud of them. It's just, it's universal. Really great.
It was like at 1 o'clock in the morning.
about 12:48, I think the newspaper said as the call came in.
Yeah.
But he was on the trouble call here and he was on his way home.
Just happened to be there.
Yeah, there was two cars there. I guess there was a older lady that was on the phone with 911 and a young kid that was recognized in the heart because as a college grad, auto airplane pilot.
Airplane, just
Just
graduated
barely
that day.
graduated that day.
He's coming back.
He was on his way home as well, and he saw it turned around and then Nick showed up in there, like there's a guy in there and.
Yeah, I remember it must have been last Saturday, we drove by and we didn't know, I didn't hear anything about the barn and I was just, we were heading to Hardwick and I'm like, was that the barn that we used to be there? You know, the Wayside barn, that big red barn on the right where it looks like it's almost right on the highway. We go.
John Reed's old barn.
The big
Yeah,
red
It used to
one.
be place.
Yeah, yes, John Reed was playing bus.
It's a beautiful barn, you know?
Out there
Yeah, we saw, yeah, it's all level, and there was that pickup was like on the other side, like.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I thought maybe the pickup was had been inside and was just got burned out.
No, the
You know,
police
it was
took,
going all the way
police took
through.
the car that was involved in there, Polar Bear took it out of there.
Yeah, jeez. Oh, wow. Cool. That's crazy.
Hey.
Yeah.
How do I top that? Follow that.
FEMA.
All the time.
Jeez.
I don't really have a lot, I have had a number of interviews and I expect to have, 2 more follow-up interviews. Within the next week or so. And then I think Scott's gonna talk about a little bit too, but, we had
Why don't you talk about it? You did.
an insurance risk assessment, so Perma had just come out, it was free offering, so I said, sure, we'll do it, I don't know if Rusty knew that I had volunteered us, but it mostly was Rusty and Nick's time, just going through like our policies, processes and our, substations and equipment, but the last day, I'm trying to think how that even came about, but she just wanted to talk about our call handling procedures, so she met with, again, it was Nick, Rusty and I, and did a little test on the office, and it was quite interesting, how that turned out, but anyway, what came out of it is she did like a little 3-hour, 4-hour call handling, training to explain what our service reps should be saying to customers and how we should be handling calls of like downed wires. And I wasn't there unfortunately, but I'm not sure what else you talked about other than downed
That was
wires.
the most important part.
The key of it was, so we, like all utilities, have not trained our office staff to think about to tell the customers to protect themselves in those situations. We're trying to get the information to tell his crew where to go to fix something. And it turns out we have liability if we don't help customers understand. So like, we don't wanna distinguish if it's a cable line, a phone line, or an electric line. If it's a low wire, get the hell away from it. Like, do not approach. And so part of really the training was about those sort of things. Around, you know, to advise.
Also,
Get
and I don't,
complacent.
yeah, well, I don't think that complacent, yes, but I also just don't think that we really took into account the true dangers of a down cable wire, like I learned something, just that, you know, phone or whatever. I just don't think that we were ever trained or taught, it, like he said, it was more about just, you know, taking the information and not really
Right.
understanding what we should be communicating. So it was eye-opening, and I think, you know, there are definitely other trainings that we can and should be doing
And
with
just-
office staff.
Just to put it in perspective, I mean, I think the smallest actual cases that we heard about were like a few $1 million. Against the utility for not handling the call correctly, and the largest were certainly in the hundreds of millions. And, you know, death and dismemberment and lots of, so you understand why the numbers are big, right? So, and, you know, what we learned is we can actually, if we don't handle that right, we can have some liability. In addition to, I mean, our primary reason to do it is we wanna keep our customers safe, but we also happen to have some liability. And so that's what we learned, I think, in that training.
And just one question to ask, like Penn said, just that.
Oh, good. Good stuff, so. Our staff, I thought, accepted it really well, they were a little dour about, you know, some of the examples that were shared with them, because it was, you know, a lot. But they were all really appreciative to actually know what they should be telling people.
Yeah, well, some of them weren't happy at the cold call test
They
that
didn't like the test.
we failed miserably on.
You tested one?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
the one like on the day before the class, again, it was Nick, Rusty and I, and she was in here calling and just said, hey, there's a down wire, and the first person said, "Oh, okay, thank you," like, and there was like nothing. And then we're waiting for something to come to Rusty.
20 minutes went through, and then she keeps looking like, they haven't told you yet. I'm like, no, not yet.
So then she called back and got another different person, and she still didn't ask for a phone number or, so.
Where are we?
So, I mean,
I had Nick on the radio saying,
It
oh
was-
yeah, like, I can't find it, do you have a phone number I can call the person? So then the person that had taken the second call was like, no, like, so another fail, but it was just, I mean, it was,
We had a portable radio in here, they thought Nick was down by 10 Railroad, but he was sitting right here, and, I mean, she just does it though, I mean, not for negativity, just.
no, it's just for training.
It's for
Yeah.
training, you know, to see where you're at, what you need to do, and she was really great about it,
Yeah.
she was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She said that all our hearts are in the right place, we're doing a great job. It's just some policies and procedures, and some of them are just,
Things to work on.
yeah.
Anything else for Penny? On the list?
The only other thing is I am working with the audit report. I had a few small changes that I sent back today, and then I just have to write up the management discussion and analysis. Hope to get that to you by the end of next week, although Robin, who is the partner, is out at a conference, so the hope is that we will give it to you on June 4th for approval, for acceptance, I guess it's called, acceptance. But again, it was a clean audit, I don't know if that was ever mentioned, but there's no issues, and just writing up documentation about the variances and stuff. And the requirement that they have, so. That's all I have, unless you have questions.
I don't know if any of you had any questions on the things I wrote, nothing ever shaking in there, just more challenges from Efficiency Vermont, more challenges from the state, trying to manage them. You know, so. Like, when you're ready, we do have three separate topics for executive session tonight.
You said the banner is still on hold, I'm sorry, let's go back to.
The banner, yeah, I'm waiting to hear. I have not seen any final proposals for zoning amendments, but I was told anecdotally that there used to be an exception for banners. And I was told anecdotally that that is not currently in the current proposal. And so my view is if there's not an exception to allow banners, then why would we adopt the banner policy? Because the town's essentially proposing that they not be allowed. So why write a policy if it's not gonna be necessary? That said, I asked the town and they said, well, we haven't decided, we're still looking at this issue. And so basically, I have a draft, but I don't feel like it's worth bringing it forward if we're not sure it's gonna be allowed. And when the new zoning bylaws come forward.
It was probably maybe 4 or 5 years ago that there was an issue where somebody wanted to put a banner up that it was. Yeah. Oh, boy.
That's 2020.
Political, and we decided we're not putting any more banners up. Because if we put it up for that group, we'd be putting it up for the claim. Right.
So what
I
I'm
think
trying.
at the time, we had talked about doing a policy and having you guys discuss
So
it.
what I'm trying, when I've got a draft that is something that attempts to say clearly. That, we're not putting up anything of any political persuasion in any possible direction. If it's to announce, a festival, non-political, non-biased. Speech related, festival, then great, and if it's something else, no.
We made an exception for the town. October
Last fall.
Something happened, they put it up too soon, and then they had to take it down, so it's only good for 3 days.
There was a complaint, so we took it back down, didn't put it back up.
Yeah.
But it's, good for 2 weeks in
Right.
April.
But the old exception allowed for 2 weeks, but now that exception's, at least in the draft bylaws, is not there, so I just figured. Why are we working on this? Unresolved whether or not they want an exception or not, if they do, then great, I'll bring the policy forward. If they don't, we just won't do policy, we won't do banners. These guys would love not to have to go banners up.
Well, if the town wants to do banners, let the town do banners.
So I don't have any folks to do it, well, when we've done it. But
Technically speaking, they are not allowed to do.
if the zoning banner,
Because they can't be up where we tie those banners to.
right,
Well, they tied the banner on the fence with the old.
Correct, but if they put them in their locations on the poles, they are not allowed to be in that area.
we can talk about this next meeting.
Okay.
It's fine, but that's the update of why it's on hold. We're basically ready to bring it forward, it's just why waste our time if it's not currently going to be allowed.
Agreed.
So. We're on executive session,
Yeah, fun.
but we need to make sure.
I'll make a motion, it's executive section.
It's hard.
For what reasons?
It is, let's see, 313A1B, which is labor relation agreements with employees. 313A1F, which is attorney-client communications. And 313A1A3, which is appointment of public officers.
Anybody second that? I'll second.
All those in favor?
That is at what, 6:43, is that okay? Wait a second, I'll put us on.
Okay, can I get a motion to give an award to Nick LeBlanc for his beyond the call of duty service rescuing the men in the fire? In Woken or Harvard? Woken.
So moved.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move that we adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
And we are adjourned by 7:17.
What brings you to town?
Just get into